2001 Ford Excursion rear brake replacement. I'm Brian Eslick from How To Automotive, and I'm going to walk you through that process. So we're going to start by getting your vehicle up in the air. If you're doing this at home, use floor jacks and jack stands. And then if you got a hoist, put it up on the hoist, get the wheels, rip the wheels off. And we're going to start by removing the 12mm bolt here on the caliper and the 12mm bolt. So now that I got the caliper off, I just set it on top of the on the axle here, and we're going to remove the two 18mm bolts that are on the back of the caliper, the bracket here. And I'm going to use an impact gun because I got room to get it in there. But if you don't have that, you can use a ratchet or a wrench. It'll take you a little bit of time. So now that we got the caliper cage off, the bracket off, you need to get the rotor off. And sometimes they're stuck on the hub, and in this case, I'm replacing the rotors. So I'm just going to smack them with the back of the hammer and break them through, which I've already done. But if not, what you could do is you could actually hit it right here on the face of the rotor on a hammer, and let it jar it, and it'll break it. It'll break that little free. So then you can work the rotor off. So with the old rotor, you could measure it with a micrometer, and if it's thick enough, you can machine it. And if you don't have access to a brake lathe yourself, you can take it down to a automotive repair shop and ask them to do it. They may ask you what year, make, model the car is, and they'll measure it out for you and make sure that it has enough thickness. And they're going to charge you a small fee to do it, but you'll have a nice smooth brake pedal after machining the rotor, guaranteed. If you don't machine the rotor, you stand the chance of having slight vibrations or squeaks. It's just a possibility. Or you may get lucky and it'll just be perfect. So now we need to prep the new rotor, and they come with oil on them. So what I like to use is like a little can of brake clean and clean the oil off. So they come with, it's called cosmetic. So you want to clean it off inside and out as best you can, and then put the rotor on. Just slip the rotor. Before you slip the rotor on, you want to check your park brake shoes and make sure they're in good shape. They didn't get left on and barbecued or anything. So these appear to be in good shape. So once you slide it on the back side, I'll show you how to adjust them if you need to adjust them. So one of the ways you can tell by is when you slide it on. If it slides on super easy, and also you can rock it back and forth really easy, you may want to make sure your vehicle's in neutral. And you can kind of feel, what you want to feel is a slight little drag on the shoes on the inside of the rotor here. And if you don't feel that, the bracket here or the rotor here, there's a little hole. There's a little rubber grommet like this. You'll pop that out, and inside there is a little adjustment. You can adjust the little spoon up or down. And you can either use a screwdriver, works pretty good for this particular application, or they have what they call brake spoons. You can use that too. That brake spoon will actually work a little better. It has a little, it's bent a little bit, so you can work it. So adjust that until you feel a light drag. Don't overdo it. So now that we got our rotor on and our e-brake adjusted, we need to do a little prep work on the caliper bracket here and the new brake pads. So just go ahead and just remove their old brake pads, and you're going to remove the my brakes came with a new hardware kit, so if they come with these, definitely change them out. It's not worth messing with these. But if they didn't come with these, what you're going to have to use is a wire brush. You use a wire brush like this, and you would clean the channels up really well and clean everything up. But like I said, if they come with new ones, definitely use them. So we're going to swap these over. We'll just put them back on in the exact way they came off with these. And also what we're going to do is we're going to pull these pins out, and they slide out, and they may be kind of sticking or not sliding very well. So what you do is you'll pull these boots back like that, and then with both hands you'll work this out, and you'll do the same on both. And sometimes they're different from the top to bottom, so keep them separated. And then what we're going to do is we're going to lube them up with a grease that is made for brakes. This is called Seal Glide. Another brand, and a lot of times it comes with the brake pads themselves in the box. It's called Molly grease, Molly brake lube, and so we're going to lube all the slide pins up. So what I like to do is once you get the pins out, you put a dab of the grease on there, and then you pack it in there, and you really work it in there until everything slides nice and smooth like that. And you'll do that to both. So now that you got your slide pins lubed and your new hardware back on, we're going to take our new pads here, and we're going to put a little bit of this grease on the backings of the back of the shims, just a thin end. That helps reduce squeaking. And one other tip is try not to touch the surface of the new pads or the fresh rotors. If you get grease prints on stuff on the rotors and also on the front of the pads, it can cause squeaks later on. It might not be right away, but it can cause it later on as it kind of burns into the rotor and can possibly cause like hot spots and stuff like that. So after we did that, we're going to put a little blue thread lock sealer in the bolts, and we're going to bolt this back up. Now you can put your inner and outer pads on. So you just put them in at an angle like so, and then push them in. So now we need to press the pistons back into the caliper bore. But before we do that, we need to remove a little bit of brake fluid from the master cylinder. The reason why is we're going to push the pistons in, and we're not going to open the bleeder screws on ours. And that's going to push the fluid back into the through the lines and back into the master cylinder. If it's too full, it'll overflow and spill into the engine bay, and also possibly damage the cap. So we suck a little bit of the fluid out of the master cylinder, and then we'll use a tool like this. It's kind of like a caulking gun. And if you don't have a tool like this, you can, like a C-clamp that would go over the pad and over the caliper, and you can twist that in, and that would pull the pistons back into the bore. So once you get those seated in, then you can put the calipers back on. Now that you've got the calipers back on, you want to put a little of the thread locker on the, I got a little too much, I'm going to wipe some off here, but on the threads to hold the caliper on, and go ahead and tighten those down. You got your caliper on, go ahead and put your wheel on and torque it down. And one last important step is to pump the brake pedal several times before you drive the car. And if the pedal is spongy for any reason, bleed the brakes. If the pedal is nice and firm after doing this, because we didn't open the bleeder screw, you shouldn't have to bleed it, but just in case, if the pedal is soft in any way, bleed the brakes afterwards. I'm Brian Eslick from How To Automotive, and I'd like to thank you guys for watching my videos, and remind you to subscribe, and thank you again.